All right, welcome to Targeting Station's live coverage of Keepstar onlining. One jump out of 1DQ. This is the second Keepstar being dropped and anchored and possibly onlining in Delve for the invading forces of Pappy. I'm Matterall here with Sully.
Hello.
We'll be watching this to see if there is a fight and if the fight breaks out. How long it goes, we won't know. But what are the stats now? What's the timer at? What's the situation, Sully?
So currently there's a large number of silos formed, but nothing really pressing at the moment. But we've got 21 minutes left on the Keepstar. So in 21 minutes time, it will be beginning its anchoring process. So that's when the core will have to be installed, and then the 15 minutes will start. It'll be an interesting one because Goonswarm, well, not just Goonswarm, the Imperium have structures present on this grid, so they do have safe havens for certain ships. They do have, I believe it's two 4-stars and the Satio are all present on this grid. So we can see if they use them for tactics.
Yeah, we've also seen a Titan on field for, I shouldn't say on field, but in system.
Yeah,
Probably.
it logged in onto one of the 4-stars. I can't. It wasn't able to tell if the Titan pilot logged out or jumped out. I missed that animation. So it may have just been a quick removal from the system, or could have been used for something later on. Maybe the bridge fleet's out. It was tethered safely on one of the Fortizars, so it wasn't anywhere at risk.
Has there been any sign of Imperium beyond that
Um,
Titan?
Not really, not throughout the day. There's been some small interceptors burning around on the Keepstar grid for both sides, but not really been too much activity from the Imperium that I've noticed throughout the day. Just standard travelling through. I've not seen any really obvious things.
All right, we'll keep looking at this scene as it develops. So again, we're I think under an hour from Keepstar actually onlining. We'll see if the Imperium show up to contest it. I think it depends on what kind of force is going to defend the onlining of this Keepstar. If it's 4,000 combatants with a totally bubbled situation, I would think that the Imperium would take a pass instead of lose a lot of ships on something that would be difficult to defeat. On the other hand, if there's 2,000, maybe that's a fight the Imperium can take and possibly win. They've done it before, they've done it 4 times. It just takes a lot of sacrifice. I'm not sure where their appetite is for that right now. It could be great because they've had a lot of time to build and to recover. So we'll see. We'll keep watching until we see something.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have eyes in 1DQ, so I'm unable to see if the Imperium have numbers or what numbers they have there. Because this system is directly next to 1DQ, so this camera here is the one that has been living there for the last few weeks. So this will be the interesting one. I imagine it would be quite important for Imperium to attempt this Keepstar. However, it all depends on if they are able to see a method to its destruction that is both efficient and practical.
Yeah, this is the sixth time actually. Keepstar has been dropped. The first 4 times the Keepstar was defeated in one form or another. Either it was defeated before it was anchored fully, or it was defeated before it onlined. That means it was destroyed, even though the Imperium didn't keep the field because of overwhelming odds against them. They couldn't maintain control of the field. They could still sneak out the victory and destroy the Keepstars. On the fifth one, they had no Fortizars. The Imperium had no Fortizars inside of system, which made it difficult for them to stage a defense. And there was also the additional, what they call bubble wrapping the station, which means putting bubbles all around the entire station 360 degrees. So there was no really good entry point. And those two things short circuited any defense of the, or actually defense of Delve or attack on the Keepstar, and the Imperium essentially moved a few assets into place, but the attack was called off.
Yeah.
And that was the first anchoring of Keepstar in Delve.
Yeah, I'm unsure if the Imperium had plans to utilize bombers to attack the Keepstar. We saw them use it for the first few Keepstars, where they just had bombers on grid, just constantly firing off bombs into the Keepstar itself to both apply damage and keep it paused. I'm unsure if they was planning on that tactic, and so the bubbles obviously would really hinder any bombing attempts because the bombs would be stuck in the bubbles and unable to warp. I'm not quite sure on what their plan was, but we'll be interested to see what happens here because, as you can see on the screen, the timer is now at 15 minutes. So very shortly, we will begin to see some Pappy forces ideally begin to land on and hold the grid. It was worth noting that at this time on the last Keepstar, the YZ9 Keepstar, there was already fleet presence in system to begin anchoring these the bubbles that were part of the bubble wrap. So we're not seeing that here. There's only 184 currently in the system. So we have to watch and see how it plays out.
Yeah, we're not hearing in our information channels, we're not really hearing any movement either. So it looks like this may go uncontested. It's too early to tell. But it's all signs point to this not being contested. This Keepstar will anchor. If it does anchor, it is one jump out of the Imperial Capital system of 1DQ. I wonder if you have any thoughts, Sully, on what that means tactically for future events.
So it's a very interesting thing. So we've seen over the last 2 weeks the Imperium have moved their capital staging from 1DQ to E3. And that has become their Helm's Deep. Their sub-capitals, however, are still based out of 1DQ. And 1DQ is the Imperium home system. It is where they have multiple Fortizars on the grid and 3 Keepstars. So being one jump out with a friendly Keepstar allows a lot more advance into that system. So I imagine it would be quite a... If this system was to become a Pappy staging for the assault, it would mean a lot more fleets are able to get a lot further in, as well as even from YZ9 there is good coverage over Delve, but in T5 there is just that extra more coverage of a few more systems.
It's also got something of a, I don't know if it's a morale push or boost or a morale victory, but you have a Keepstar sitting facing the 1DQ grid, so it's one gate jump away. I wonder if that gate will become the center of a lot of activity in the future days.
We're just going to take a look at the map for a moment because I'm seeing some activity on another camera and I'd be interested to see if I can see it anywhere specifically. There it is. So I have a camera in E3 as well as in the Pappy home system, and the activity I'm seeing in E3 is a large number of Imperium super capitals and titans are currently signing out of system, and it looks like they may be moving into 1DQ as there are 3 current signers active there.
Oh, that's an interesting move.
Yeah, there is a significant number of supers and titans jumping at the moment.
Do we have any idea what Test and Pappy have in store for the defense of this Keepstar?
Because they can't see Imperium subcap numbers, it would be interesting. But I can see multiple Pappy fleets are currently formed. They are also staged on Titans ready to bridge. We can see that there are a large number of Falcons and Recons in system from all sides, so there is a large number of Happy Sinos available. So in theory, within the next few minutes, I would begin to expect some Sinos to go up, as well as fleets to begin Sinoing in.
Yeah. So there are other channels watching this as well. You have Ron USMC showing you Test's point of view. You have Push to Talk Show, which is breaking into live coverage here on the Imperium News channel. You have Extra Squishy. Oops, different. You have Agaki. Don't know who that is. And you guys watching TIS News. Thanks for hanging out with us. But people are watching to see if something is going to happen, and it looks like we're seeing some stirring now. We'll keep you updated on D scans.
Yeah. With every passing moment, there are more and more capitals and supers and titans undocking from E3, and they are beginning to sino out. Multiple titans and supers are the main focus that I can see here.
Imperium on the move.
Yeah, I'm unsure if that is related to this timer or if it's planned moves or anything like that.
Laura says, Zagoon's evacing? No, probably not. Little jest there. We assume they're coming to 1DQ, which is right next door.
Yeah, I don't think the Imperium have any plans on evacuation yet. It's still very early in this Delve side. We haven't seen any main Delve Keepstars full yet. There was a Keepstar that had the Pappy iHub was successfully captured again by Imperium, which, although I believe it has been since retaken by Pappy, it reset that sovereignty index, meaning it delays any possible Sino jammers, which is how they killed the 49 TAC Keepstar. So Imperium are still putting up a fight. They have obviously fallen back to Helm's Deep, and that has not been touched by any Intosis yet. I'm not sure if there's been many fleets come up there. I know there have been to clear the bubbles on the gates and try and disrupt and cause damage. However, I'm not sure on any impact that has had, if there's been any successful fleets or anything like that. But I know there is nothing that has impacted any of their timers.
So the question by Ron here, Ron says, so why are they moving Super and Titans to 1DQ? Why would they do that? And it's partially answered here by Giver Tanker. History suggests they are setting up Goon's Gate Camp. And that is what our best intelligence is telling us. They're not actually going to contest the Keepstar, but they're going to bolster 1DQ and form up strong to make sure that nothing comes through the gate. So at least they're going to protect the capital system.
It's very interesting though, because of what I'm seeing jump out. If it was super carriers, then protecting the gate would be a viable. But with Titans, there is no real relevance on Titans jumping through, because the Titans themselves don't track any subcapitals. They also won't be able to attack the gate from the Keepstar's position. So it's a very odd.
Well, it could be to protect the super capitals, maybe.
1DQ has been Sinojammed all of this week. So obviously for them to have the Sinos active, they might most likely have cycled that jammer. So it could be in preventing anything from getting in, or any forces from getting in, but it is a very odd movement.
Well, let's assume for now that it's a show of force and a show of intention. That's their capital. They're going to defend it. It would look very bad if uh, this Keepstar anchored and there was no reaction. I think that would probably be a bad signal to send. Maybe they don't want this fight. Maybe this isn't a valuable objective for them, but they do want to show force. That might be what that display is about. Also, again, making sure that and this is what we saw last time, making sure that nobody comes through the gate. When this was anchored, there was a gate camp on the 1DQ gate from T5, so they didn't want anybody coming into 1DQ, but they didn't contest the anchoring. So it was almost like they were shutting the door and letting whatever happened outside that system, the 1DQ system, letting it happen. And that seems to be what's happening here too. And the Titans might be in system because at this point, if you have a big enough force in T5, you could just gate into 1DQ. You don't need to jump in it, so the Sino Jammer wouldn't really prevent you if you had fleets going into 1DQ through the gate.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get another camera on the move. See if I can get any information on what's going on there. Chances are it wouldn't survive, but yeah. The Imperium, I do have to give credit to a couple of the Imperium pilots in Inceptors. They are very, very good at catching me. I've not been killed for a couple of weeks, knock on wood, but they have gotten very close. Every time I try and keep eyes on them, and so I can have an indication of what's going on there, I very closely get caught every time.
While you do that, we're going to bring Vily on here, who is one of the generals of Pappy, probably the owner of this Keepstar here, to tell us what's going on. How are you doing, Vily?
I'm doing well. Not too much is going on. Everything um, is pretty much under control, it seems like, from our side. We've got forces out taking some Delvi hubs right now. We're watching the Keepstar enter the last few minutes of its anchoring time, at which point I assume a core will be put in and it will begin repairing. We have hostile forces camping the other side of the gate who are unwilling to jump into T5ZI for the most part, it seems, just due to the massive forces you can pretty obviously see in YZ9. And yeah, it's just a pretty quiet day so far.
YT9 being your forward operating position where you have your super capitals and titans and stuff, right?
Mine is the Pappy Coalition primary staging point in NPC Delve currently.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of this Keepstar being next to 1DQ? Why would you put one here?
So if you open up the map, you can basically see that T5ZI offers us increased jump ranges. So it's going to allow us to project directly into Fountain. Directly onto the Fountain Regional. It's going to allow us to project directly into 1DQ and increase our pressure there. So there's almost always gate camps going on in 1DQ, but the way in which those gate camps happen is very different than when you're literally next door, right? It changes the dynamic quite a bit, and that dynamic should, in theory, allow us to further amp up, the strangulation or the I don't know what you would call
Constriction.
it, the pressure basically, or the press, as I believe I called it like 5 or 6 months ago. So just to further make it uncomfortable for the average line member of the Imperium.
Yeah, so we can see that a Keepstar also breaks 1DQ's connection to Fountain, at least through gates.
Well, the connection isn't broken yet. We'll still have to fight over the ZXB constellation at some point as well.
Mm.
But what it does is it has direct jump range to ZXB, which means we can literally go directly to Fountain at any time via a single Titan bridge, which allows us to go to Y2 and begin cleansing Fountain again, which is something that everybody has been looking forward to for a long time.
So Fountain was taken over early in the war. Then it was taken by Initiative, and they've put their own iHubs down. How far along are those iHubs?
I think they're good 2 months in, so they're all back to strat 3, 4, 5. So Um, in terms of iHubs, they're upgraded. They've got sufficient strat index so that they can have jump bridges and Sonic Jammers, the whole lot. But they have no super cat fleet there, and they have no Keepstars and extremely limited strategic infrastructure, I guess you would say, Fortizars and that kind of thing. So the recleansing of Fountain will be a very different process than it was last time, let's say.
Right. So now Pepe has options with a Keepstar in T5 should this thing online in just a few minutes.
Correct.
All right. Well, we have heard reports that they've moved Titans and Super Capitals into 1DQ. What's the purpose of that?
So they're setting up a gate blockade. Generally, when we dropped this Keepstar, we figured they'd have 3 to 4 options. First off, they could go hard and try and kill it. Number two is they could just blockade 1DQs. That when we form 3,000 people, um, they don't just naturally get 1DQ reinforced if the door is open, kind of thing. They could try like a asymmetrical warfare play, so they could try to go after it with bombers and harassment and that kind of stuff. Or they could just completely ignore it. And obviously, the play they've chosen is to kind of blockade 1DQ, so we don't get a free reinforce on 1DQ, which is something they're very worried about because it's probably going to set in a pretty heavy amount of panic in their membership when that does happen. And we were fine with either case, obviously. When they have to form up just to watch us anchor the Keepstar, for us, that's a pretty big win. And obviously, we're getting some things done in Delve regardless today right now.
So it seems like you guys aren't expecting them to either take the fight or you're not willing to rebubble this and ensure its safety. So what is that? Is that more of a bait tactic or is that just
It's a
confidence
little
that
bit of
they
both.
won't attack? Hmm.
So we have the bubble wrap ready. We have the bookmarks ready. We can bubble wrap if we require. But uh, if we don't need to, the bubble wrap is actually somewhat expensive. It's like 8 bill to set up the bubble wrap. So there's no reason for us to implement that if we don't think there's significant hostile contest that would require it.
Yeah. So for those, we just saw a Pennant Horde Rorqual jump in with protection of a Minokawa, and it has since docked into the Keepstar. So I'm sure we will see a core being placed in any moment now.
So that bubble wrap technique, is that something that needs to be set up before a fight or is it something you can do mid-fight?
The prep for it has to be set up pre-fight, so you have to do the full bookmark circularization kind of setup. But the setup itself can be basically done in about 5 minutes if you're prepped for it. And the way these tie-dye fights work, there's no shortage of time to do that. So
Well, the way it looks, this Keepstar may actually get its core and then anchor a few minutes later. Sorry, online. It's already anchored. Will this be a new forward operating base? Will you move everything to this?
I don't know if that announcement is public yet or not, but you can probably take a good guess.
Yeah, I would hazard a guess as yes. Is would be my opinion because it gives so much better coverage, like you said earlier. You gave loads of pros and very few cons against the movement here.
Is there any risk of getting too deep into Delve and, I don't know, getting cut off from your supply lines behind you or anything?
Not at all. We secured our supply line with a Keepstar chain. That's why we use Keepstar chains for those supply lines, right? So it ensures that no matter what happens, you can't really be cut off.
Were any of those Keepstars, I don't know, broken from that chain at all? I'm thinking of the Requiem flip or sob drop. Did that affect anything?
No. The Requiem soft drop only affected like IHUB infrastructure, right? It so some jump bridges, and that was really about it, right? The systems they held in Delve were not long held systems, and
Here we are seeing NC wanting to be the first capitals on grid.
Yeah, that's some of the big boys coming in.
Obviously, as the Keepstar has anchored, they are docking immediately. It allows them to not worry about not being tethered, as well as restoring any cap they have.
How fast that is without tie-dye.
There we go.
And as Vily just said, the core is now installed and the Keepstar is beginning its repair process.
All right, timer started. There's no sign of resistance. Looks like this will complete its timer and give Pappy a forward operating base even deeper into Delve. This is considered Delve Core, isn't it?
To anyone that's speaking honestly, this is Delve Core.
There's that big dinosaur on on top of the Keepstar.
The T5ZI is basically in the intersection between the three core areas of Delve, which is the 1DQ constellation and the fake Delve constellation below it, the JP4 constellation with ZXB, and the E30 and Helm's Deep constellations, let's say. So it effectively, by normal gate, cuts off those constellations from each other, and certainly the effects of this will be felt for the coming months.
All right. I hate to jump, but real life calls. I'm going to leave this to Sully. Thank you, Vily, for hanging out with Sully and explaining some things. We'll watch this tick down with you guys. It looks like there won't be any fight. Pappy gets a Keepstar in T5. That's what it looks like so far. We'll see. A few minutes to go.
So, what do you think, Sully?
It's a pretty big showing for both sides. It's a very odd thing that I saw Imperium moving their Titans, because I wouldn't have attributed them to a gate camp, but I suppose they're just kind of A, showing force, and B, allowing protection for their super carriers as well.
Yeah, so the movement of Titans into 1DQ would be much more to provide backup to the super carriers. And once the Sino Jammer is up in 1DQ, you can't put it down, right? So it creates a situation where they're just ensuring that they have, they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's on their gate camp. So it's nothing surprising.
Yeah, just had to deal with my neighbour was revving his bike outside, so it was coming through the microphone, so that's why I went quiet for a moment there. Managed to cut it on stream pretty quick, but I think Discord still heard it. But so I've managed to get a camera into 1DQ. I don't know how safe I would be getting it onto the Keepstar grid.
What is local count in 1DQ?
Local in 1DQ is at 2,000 pilots, 2,056. Local for Pappy in YZ9, even with the NC Super and Titan Fleet jumping out, is currently at 3,900. And obviously there's 467
so there's
in system.
465 in T5ZI, so I think 2/3, 3/4 of that are blue now. Actually, much more than 3/4. Because local went up by about 400, I think, that are blues here. So yeah, 4,300 to 2,000. That sounds about right.
Yeah. Let's see if I am able to get a camera close enough to that Keepstar without dying. Let's take bets. Because, I say, Imperium have been very good at catching my cameras. I'll have to say they're much better at Pappy than it. I left one of my cameras uncloaked earlier this morning for about an hour and no one cared.
Yep. I'm gonna leave you. Good luck with your.
So yeah, as the Imperium pilot Zaphod almost catches my camera yet again. Um, very well done to him, but he has unfortunately just missed me. But yeah, so I can see on the Keepstar now in Monte Q is where all of the Imperium Super Entitles have been jumping to. The signage element is now back up and present, so that's why eventually it did, no more began jumping in. We can see they are firmly set up with a defensive grid over the Stargate into T5 with the fighters and a fleet as well on the grid, just to protect and ensure that nothing comes through. Maybe still see more NC and PL forces jumping into system. So we are now down to 7 minutes on the timer. So in 7 minutes, this Keepstar will be fully online. So in theory, if the Imperium is planning any interruption, it will be hopefully shown shortly. But for now, it looks like they are wanting to secure 1DQ, so no fleets can transition from this anchoring into 1DQ and begin to cause disruption there. So currently, both sides of the of this entire war are focused on either side of this Stargate. So let's just have a transition of camera whilst we're sat here with 5 minutes left. We'll have a quick hop over and I can show you each of the forces. So this camera you're seeing now is currently, this is 1DQ on the Keepstar. As you can see, there is a large number of forces here. So we have carriers, super carriers, Baxes, there's a small battleship fleet here as well of Rokes. All sat, as well as we have the Stargate off there in the distance. With fleet surrounding them. And if I show all brackets, we can see here just the prep that has been made with all the bubbles and the Harpy fleet now surrounding, as well as that Roke fleet just warping down to ensure coverage. And here we'll transition over to YZ9. We can see here we have the Pappy forces staged. Obviously, unfortunately, this client does have max graphics, hence why we're seeing so much. Here we can see the super carriers, Titans. YZ9 obviously is now under tie-dye. We can see here are the Pappy forces ready to go. And as we can see, they are beginning to jump out. And they will be jumping out. All into TZ. Don't have some pilots here on the my list, so I'll add their standings now. And we have defensive levels up for these supers and titans and capitals jumping in, so that if there's any disconnects as they jump into grid, they're obviously not warping out. They are being put stationary on the grid. We are just getting under 3 minutes to go. So for those wondering, the YZ9 camera, I don't have a camera station there at the moment, but I do, being Pappy myself, I am part of an attacking force, so that was a Komodo. It's my Komodo pilot there. Because obviously I am unable, not required to put a camera there, because I always have eyes of some form. Local in TZ's T5ZI is now steadily climbing up. We're up to 660. With more and more ships are jumping out of YZ9, but due to the heavy tie-dye in YZ9, it's making it quite slow of them filtering into the system. We're now into the last 25 seconds. If Imperium was able to do something against this, they would have already. unfortunately, it's now, by the time they get on grid, I think it will be too late for them to be able to pause it. So this Keepstar will most likely, in the last 5 seconds, anchor up. As we heard from Vily, the benefits of this Keepstar just allows them so much more coverage, as well as the ability to impose threat onto 1DQ itself. So there we have the animation go off. So it has anchored without any defensive attack from the Imperium. The Imperial numbers that we see as this Keepstar finished its anchoring and is now fully online and high power. There are 2100 Imperium in 1DQ with 3 or 4 main fleets currently staged around this gate, preventing anything or attempting to prevent anything from jumping in. As well as Pappy have currently got 300, excuse my language, 3,700 pilots in YZ9. We'll begin to see the last remnants of forces jumping in, as well as I'm sure there'll be announcements over the coming few days for potential movements into this Keepstar to allow more progression into the delve part of the Attacking Sides campaign. So with the Keepstar anchoring, I'll begin to wrap up and round down. I'd like to invite everyone to sign up to our new mailing list that Matt has been working on, T5ZI-S based news. I'll put it in chat. It's very useful if you're unable to listen to the streams or the daily posts. It will send out a mail every day during the week with those updates as a newspaper type format. So if those who are unable to tune in to the podcasts and the streams, please do feel free to subscribe to that. Also feel free to come check us out on Discord, jump on our Discord with us. We're there, we hang out, we chat. So feel free to get in touch with there and come and hang out. I'd say thank you to everyone that's turned up, and I'll sign us off here, and hopefully we'll see you for the next major brawl. Thanks all.